I miss him. Thinking about him all the time, and it hurt because when I'm out, somebody always saying, "You look just like your brother."
September 2nd, 2020, in the throes of the COVID-19 pandemic. A little before 1 p.m., police respond to reports of gunfire outside a residence in Steelton, Pennsylvania.
Steelton Borough is a town of roughly 6,000 residents. We border Harrisburg City on the north end of town, which is the state capital of Pennsylvania. We do get calls of shots fired, but they're usually in the evening hours, overnight hours. It's a unique call for that time of day.
Multiple officers arrived on scene. What they found was an unidentified male lying inside of his front door. He appeared to have multiple gunshot wounds. Officers did attempt to perform life-saving measures to render aid, but they determined there to be no signs of life.
The victim is a black man in his late 30s, and in a town as small as Steelton, it's not difficult for officers to identify him.
Chief of police, he knows many people in the community. He was familiar with that residence, and he knew at that point that it was Ishmael Lewis.
Ishmael Lewis was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, November 25th, 1980. The first of 9 children raised by devout Muslims, Mary Lewis and Hakeem Hodge.
Growing up Muslim gives you a structure, you know? It gives you a sense of being black as well. You know, it gives you a pride. The way we eat, the way we pray, the way we live our lives. So growing up Muslim is very important. It can give you discipline. Ishmael and my mom, they had a special relationship. He used to always make her smile. Ishmael's relationship with my dad, the same relationship like all of us. It was rocky because he was there, but he was in and out of our lives. He didn't really play that role. As a result, Ishmael had to take up the leadership role, being the oldest. And he did that very well. That's why I never felt the absence of a man in my life.
As Ishmael grew older, he remained an active member of the Nation of Islam. His priorities were his family and his faith, in that order. But he also had an eye for the ladies.
The Lewis brothers, we don't have problems getting women. It's never been an issue of ours. Ishmael, you couldn't hold him down unless you was a special woman.
For a while, it seemed like Ishmael had finally been tamed when his girlfriend gave birth to his first child.
His son's name's also Ishmael.
He was a good father, and he was a good guy. He was trying to do right in life.
But remaining true to his convictions became more challenging with a family to feed.
It's definitely hard to keep a job that's worthy of a paycheck that's gonna support you and your loved ones. Besides in the streets hustling. And he did time, you know, for the mistakes he made. He did in and out of prison sometimes. He did small bids, 1 year, 2 year, and I believe his longest was about 5 years.
While Ishmael spent most of his 20s behind bars, he also fathered a total of 5 children. Now determined to become a better role model for them, he decided to make a fresh start in the nearby town of Steelton.
So he got approved for some type of like government assistance to get on his feet after like being in and out of jail. He got an apartment, and he was living rent-free for a while, so he can get on his feet and also work his job and things like that.
He worked the midnight shift or overnight shift at Flagger Force. What Flagger Force is, if you're doing road construction somewhere, they are the flaggers that set up the code and direct traffic around it.
He was actually getting raises and he was actually making money that he could actually support himself and his family.
At the age of 39, Ishmael found out he was going to become a grandfather. He also recently found happiness with a new girlfriend, 20-year-old Shanasia Peterson.
She had a high school diploma, but she also had a young child. I think the child was 3 years old at the time. So she was just beginning her life.
I wasn't concerned about her age difference. That's common. It's common growing up in the hood that an older man's dating a younger woman. She always liked Ishmael, always wanting to have a relationship.
But any chance of a new beginning has now vanished in a hail of gunfire. Ishmael has been found shot to death in broad daylight at his home, and investigators are combing the scene for clues.
When I'm going to the scene, I have to get myself in what I call detective mode. I need to slow down my thought process. Everything is step by step, can't miss anything. So I go get my camera out. So then we go, myself and the coroner's office go inside the house and start photographing the inside of the house and the deceased.
Ishmael Lewis was just inside the doorway. One of his legs was probably passing the threshold of the doorway, and he was laying on his back with his head towards the one wall where the TV was. Ishmael was shot 5 times. 3 of them hit him in the legs. He was shot in both legs. He was shot once in the hip area, or groin area, and then what the forensic pathologist described as the kill shot would have gone through his back and went into his lung and passed through his heart. The gunfire in this case, to me, seemed very much targeted at Ishmael. One of the gunshots was a close-range gunshot wound, meaning there was soot around the wound, which tells you it was within a foot or 2 feet.
But as far as police can tell, there's no clear motive for the crime.
There was nothing awry, really, inside the house. It's a very small apartment, maybe around 500 square feet. There looked to be nothing out of place, nothing stolen. You see where the drywall was broken out and there were some shell casings inside the house. So we knew part of the shooting happened outside and some inside.
It appears that everything happened in very close proximity. They would have started firing almost certainly outside the residence, but not far outside, maybe from the front stoop, based on where the shell casings were, and then proceeded into the residence and fired shots inside.
However, the spent shell casings do provide detectives with a valuable piece of information.
5 of those shots came from one unidentified .40 caliber handgun, and one of the other shots came from another unidentified .40 caliber handgun.
So there was possibly 2 types of guns.
We knew that our victim did not have a firearm. He did not have a firearm that day. We believed that we had 2 shooters.
As Steelton police try to make sense of the murder of 39-year-old Ishmael Lewis, word spreads to his family back in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
I'm on my way to work, and then I get a phone call. It was my sister. She had the shaky voice. She heard that something bad happened to Ishmael. So I'm already on my way to work. So I drove to where Ishmael lives, which was Stilton. I'm driving, and I'm calling people as I'm driving, but nobody's picking up the phone. And then I get there, and then I see cops. I see a commotion, and my sisters and everybody was screaming. So at that moment, I knew my brother was gone.
Murders aren't a common occurrence in this small town, so unfortunately, police don't have the resources for a full-scale investigation. And the COVID pandemic has made resources even more scarce.
We are a small department, and we only have 2 officers on duty at a time. So the next step is Chief calls in some more detectives.
We actually called a county forensic unit, which includes officers from multiple jurisdictions who have experience in doing forensic processing of crime scenes. While all those things are going on, other officers are canvassing the neighborhood, talking to neighbors, trying to find out what people may have seen or heard related to this crime.
They did ultimately make contact with several neighbors who had been 911 callers that day.
One witness, he saw Ishmael on the ground trying to defend himself, and there was a lone gunman standing over him inside the residence at that time.
However, the witness's statement contradicts the evidence, which indicates 2 gunmen. Luckily, investigators find another source with a better view of what happened.
One of our detectives informed me that to the rear of Mr. Lewis's residence, somebody had a camera system set up.
They were able to collect that video evidence that captured 2 black males walking down the alley right at the time of the crime. They initially walk down the alley from the direction of where Harrisburg would be. They walk down the alley together very slowly, and they sort of pace back and forth, and they're seem to be studying their environment, and then they walk down the side of Ishmael's house, and you see them both go down those steps, which would have been leading them towards the front of Ishmael's house. They're off camera for maybe a minute or so, and then they both come walking back on camera, and now you can really see that they're walking with a purpose. They have their hoods up at this point, which they didn't before. One of them's wearing all black, the other one is wearing gray.
While the shooting itself was not caught on camera, the activity that was is highly suspicious.
The video, in conjunction with the evidence from the scene, made it pretty clear we were looking for 2 perpetrators who would have committed the crime.
It was during COVID time, so they had masks on, so it was very difficult to see their identity. We knew it was 2 black males, and that was about it. It's a whodunit.
Ishmael's family don't recognize the 2 men and find it hard to believe he had enemies who'd want to kill him. They wonder if it might instead be a case of mistaken identity. According to them, Ishmael had put his checkered past behind him, but his oldest son had recently attracted some unwanted attention.
The pandemic was going on, and everybody was getting lump sums of money, plus hustling, so everybody was having some type of extra income coming in. So when I'm hearing the stories about everything that's going on from the streets, it's like they wasn't sure if they were looking for big-ish or little-ish, and then that's when everything happens.
So far, all they have is speculation.
And we've looked at the video, and we've talked to the witnesses, and the scene has been processed. We knew that we were looking for 2 black males, but we didn't have specific suspects.
We are just trying to figure out what's going on. The streets is talking, so you gotta kind of bypass the BS that everybody's talking about, and then what the truth is.
Then a routine search in Harrisburg reveals a surprising connection.
The day after the homicide, state parole reached out to the Steelton police, and he told them that he was going through his GPS monitoring records for the people he was supervising.
Part of their protocol is when there's a major crime that happens, they run their GPS on their clients to see if any of their clients were in the area of a major crime.
He noticed that an individual named Mason Quayles, who had a GPS monitor on his ankle at that time because he was being supervised by state parole, that he was at the scene of the crime at the time of the crime the day before.
I met with the state parole agent, and it showed Mr. Mason Quayles in the area behind the house, going anywhere from 0 to 2 miles per hour. After the homicide, it shows Mr. Mason Quayles running northbound in the alley at 13 miles per hour. So now I know Mr. Mason Quayles is my prime suspect.
But there's a problem. Quayles has disappeared.
Mason cut his GPS bracelet off the day after the crime occurred on September 3rd. Agent Garrity got a tampering notification that showed that it had been cut, and he actually recovered the device from Mason's mother's house the next day. The police then start investigating Mason Quayles, who his associates might have been, who might have been with him at that time.
I get all the information, date of birth, address, and I get his phone number. And when I run his phone number, the phone was actually owned by Miss Aubriana Parisi.
Police reach out to Aubriana to see if she knows where Quayles went, but she refuses to talk.
Detective Schaub had tried to talk to her a couple different times. She knew that we were interested in finding out what she knew about this situation, and I think she was scared to cooperate.
However, detectives soon come up with another lead.
The Steelton police realized that they had a call that had come in about a half hour prior to the shooting call that also involved Shanasia Peterson. And Shanasia Peterson was the girlfriend at that time of Ishmael Lewis.
When Miss Shanasia Peterson called and said that she was involved with a domestic with her boyfriend, Ishmael Lewis, at 517 North Front Street, that's where the homicide was 28 minutes later.
Is it coincidence or connection? Detectives immediately pay Shanasia a visit to find out.
I go to her house. One of their detectives was in with her, came out to speak with me, and he told me that she was advised that Mr. Lewis is deceased. She was a little upset. There was no tears in her eyes, and we talked a little bit about the domestic violence call that she was involved with.
She said her and Ishmael Lewis were romantically involved. They were seeing each other. She indicated that it was not uncommon for her to spend the night at Ishmael's house a few times a week. That day, she had spent the night.
Shanasia says she made food while Ishmael worked. But in the process, she spilled oil on a few of his belongings. It was an innocent mistake, but according to Shanasia, Ishmael didn't see it that way.
As she was cleaning that up, she had moved some things around. The next morning, she wakes up, Ishmael had gotten home, and he starts asking her, why did you move this? Why did you move that? Then they start arguing, and according to Shanasia, it became physical. Shanasia indicated that he had shoved her and grabbed her and pulled her, knocked her to the ground, that he had stomped her face, she said, with his foot.
She left and went back to her home and didn't know what to do. But soon, she contacted law enforcement to report that incident of domestic violence.
Before any of the department's officers could respond, Ishmael was murdered. Under the circumstances, investigators find the timing suspicious.
It's very odd where you call in a domestic violence call and 28 minutes later, your boyfriend, suspect, is murdered. There was no bruising, no blood, nothing to say that she was involved in the physical altercation. So my whodunit is, do I feel Shanasia is somehow involved in this? Yes.
They'll need more than a feeling, however, if they're going to charge Shanasia with killing her boyfriend.
Not everybody that's a victim of domestic violence shows, physical causes of it. So in that case, you may notice that some victims are, very insecure, very fearful, very worrisome. And also conversely, you may get some that hide it very well. So you may not always be able to tell a victim of domestic violence.
I asked her, after the domestic violence call, did she call anybody or speak to anybody on the phone? And she said yes, she called her friend, Miss Aubriana Parisi.
It's too much to just be a coincidence.
Murder of Ishmael Lewis in the fall of 2020. His family gathers to pay their last respects.
My brother's memorial service was packed. There was a lot of people. He had a lot of loved ones. So there was a lot of people there. It was real hard because at that now I gotta see him in a casket. Now I get confirmation that he's gone. It kind of like breaks the wall. It kind of breaks you down a little bit, and then you just start crying.
Detectives' most pressing concern is the fact that Ishmael's killers are still on the loose. And the two women who might be able to identify them are unwilling to talk.
I asked Shanasia if she would come down and give a formal interview at the station, and she refused.
Aubriana Parisi was obviously Shanasia Peterson's friend, but she seemed to be terrified.
Sometimes people are scared to cooperate because they fear retaliation. Sometimes they just don't want to be known as a snitch.
Without the cooperation of these potential witnesses, the investigation hits a wall.
We started focusing on trying to figure out who is this other individual, and the police were getting anonymous tips at that time when it might be this person, it might be that person.
None of the leads pan out. But the day after Ishmael's memorial service, investigators get an unexpected break in the case.
Mason Quayles was actually finally arrested on September 11th at a hotel where Miss Aubriana Parisi had the room booked underneath her name. So he was taken into custody by the U.S. Marshals.
After the crime, started fleeing, but then he came back to Harrisburg, and his girlfriend actually got him a room in Swatara Township.
Aubriana Parisi is also arrested and charged with harboring a fugitive. But it's nearly a month before police are able to convince her to tell them what she knows. Due to the COVID pandemic, Aubriana and the detectives all wear masks during her interrogation.
Between September and October, I had gained access to Miss Peterson's phone through a search warrant. It showed the conversations between herself, Miss Aubriana Parisi.
Those conversations seem to confirm what investigators already suspect.
She knew Shanasia wanted some kind of revenge. She offered to call her boyfriend, Mason Quayles, and have him assist Shanasia in seeking that revenge.
They agreed that Mason Quayles would come over to Shanasia's place so they could talk about what they were going to do about this situation with Ishmael Lewis.
On the way, Quayles picked up a friend to help. And according to Aubriana, they were willing to do anything Shanasia asked.
A person by the name of MG, Marcus Garner, was with him at the time, and she advised us that they were involved in going down to the house and the shooting.
When detectives ask Quayles about his girlfriend's story, he refuses to answer. And Shanasia continues to evade police as well.
Shanasia actually left the area for a while. Shortly after the crime, she went to New Jersey. Detective Schaub tried multiple times to get her to come back to talk because she was clearly somebody we had an interest in speaking to. Certainly after Aubriana came in, then it became even more important.
So on December 22nd of 2020, charges were filed against Mr. Mason Quayles and Shanasia Peterson for the homicide of Mr. Ishmael Lewis. Shanasia was arrested on December 26th.
As investigators focus their efforts on identifying the second shooter, a call comes in that promises to break the case wide open.
Ms. Shanasia Peterson contacted the district attorney's office and stated that she wanted to sit down and now speak about the investigation.
Steelton home. His girlfriend, Shanasia Peterson, finally agrees to meet with investigators.
This was a big one that Shanasia wanted to talk, and so we were curious what she was going to have to say.
Ishmael's alleged attack on her that morning left her wanting revenge.
She admitted that she called Miss Aubriana Priestley, who sent Mason Quayles to her house, and Mr. Mason Quayles was accompanied by another individual she knows as Marcus Garner.
The younger somebody is and the less experienced with the criminal justice system somebody is, the more likely they are to go against attorney advice, which is not necessarily to remain silent. Little did Shanasia know that the contents of that conversation could have put her away for life.
Shanasia Peterson was friends with Mason Quayles since they were kids. And Marcus Garner, she didn't know quite as well, but she had interacted with him in the past. So she tells them what happened, and they talk about what they're going to do.
She knew that Mr. Lewis had come into some money, and she knew the PIN numbers to all of his cards, so they were supposed to rob him of his cards.
But Shanasia says when the men returned, it was clear things hadn't gone according to plan.
She said Mason got there first. He seemed like he was frazzled, and he said, went left.
Mason Quayles and Marcus Garner started fighting him, and the two of them were losing to Mr. Lewis. And that's when the shooting occurred.
Shanasia explained that this is not how she saw that going. She did not intend for Mason and Marcus to kill her boyfriend Ishmael. In fact, she warned against it. She said, I know how things can go wrong. Don't kill him. And unfortunately, they did.
Every detail that she gave us was consistent with the other evidence that we had. And she wasn't aware of all that evidence. So all those things lined up to make us confident that she was telling the truth.
Shanasia has not only implicated herself in the crime, she's given investigators vital evidence against the second shooter, Marcus Garner, aka MG.
Before Shanasia spoke to us, we didn't have any person that could say that they actually saw Marcus Garner there on that day. And so that piece was very important.
She's the one that sent them down. She saw them after the crime occurred, and they left. So now we have enough to charge Mr. Marcus Garner.
As news of the arrests reaches Ishmael's family, they have a hard time accepting that his girlfriend could have played a role in the crime.
That's the crazy part. I didn't hear that they was having no problems. So when I heard everything, it's almost like it was unexpected, but growing up in the hood, it's like anything can happen. It's unexpected, but when you hear something so like outlandish, something so wild, it's not uncommon.
According to Shanasia, she wanted revenge for her claims of domestic abuse, of which there is no real evidence.
A woman gets in a relationship with a male who maybe isn't treating her the way that she would like to be treated, really the way that any person should be treated. And so she starts taking measures to try to get back at him.
It is clear that Shanasia wanted revenge. But what is also clear is she did not intend for Ishmael to be killed that day.
It was a robbery that went wrong. She told them that she didn't want to kill, that she just wanted to get back at him for the domestic violence.
Even with no proof of the domestic violence, the DA's office agrees, offering Shanasia a deal instead of prosecuting her for murder.
With her cooperating with law enforcement, providing information that was important for us to be able to get the people who actually carried out the killing, we decided that we believed it was appropriate for her to plead guilty to the robbery and conspiracy to commit robbery and not go forward on any murder charges with her. Certainly part of that arrangement involved her cooperating and testifying truthfully at the trial against Mason Quayles and Marcus Garner.
Two years have passed since the death of Ishmael Lewis, and his accused killers Marcus Garner and Mason Quayles are finally set to stand trial. Prosecuted of their case against the two men, but days before the trial begins, one of their key witnesses gets spooked.
Mason Quayles had written to Aubriana Parisi while he was awaiting trial, and in that letter, he essentially threatened to kill Aubriana Parisi.
He identified himself by his street name, Booney, in the letter. He talked about her and Shanasia and how it's her fault that he's under investigation. He explained that he wanted to end her life.
State's attorneys confiscate the letter and submit it as further evidence. On October 19th, 2022, the trial begins.
So we decided as a family not to go to the trial. First thing, I didn't want to see my mom crying no more. I didn't want to see her cry no more. I wanted to put it behind me. They was going to get the sentence they was going to get, you know, whether I was there or not.
When Aubriana takes the stand, there's no denying Quayles' threats have been effective.
Aubriana was clearly, she didn't appear to want to be there. She seemed to be terrified.
She was understandably very reluctant to testify or do anything that would show Mason Quayles or Marcus Garner that she was cooperating in this case.
To the prosecution's relief, Shanasia's testimony is much stronger.
Shanasia was very impressive to testify in the same room with the two people who killed her boyfriend, watching a courtroom filled with strangers. It was very impressive to see her tell her story under those circumstances.
She did very well on the stand. She was truthful, she was honest, and she did show remorse.
But the defense attempts to undermine Shanasia's testimony with a last-minute surprise witness.
Mason Quayles took the stand and attempted to give his rendition of what happened.
One of the things that the defense had brought up and the argument that they made was, well, you know, why would Mason Quayles commit this crime knowing that he's got this ankle monitor on and the police are going to be able to put him at the scene? The explanation from our standpoint was simply that you can't assume that criminals, when they commit crimes, are always going to be smart. Mason Quayles basically had to concede that he was there because we had the GPS records. His testimony on direct examination was basically that he just wanted to go down to talk to Ishmael Lewis, that there was no plan to rob him, there was no plan to beat him up.
What he did is say that Marcus Garner wasn't there. He provided a name of an individual who had since passed, who had died. It seemed awfully convenient.
The jury agrees. On October 21st, 2022, they find Mason Quayles and Marcus Garner guilty of second-degree murder.
After the verdict was read, they went to immediate sentencing because second-degree murder in the state of Pennsylvania carries a life in prison term. So they were automatically sentenced right there to life in prison.
There were so many emotions flowing through that courtroom at that time.
It was a somber feeling because, you know, not only did Mr. Ishmael Lewis lose his life, now the families of Mr. Marcus Garner and Mason Quayles are going to lose them for their life.
For her part in the crime, Shanasia Peterson is sentenced to 23 months in prison, plus 8 years of probation.
The day he was murdered, he held his grandchild the first time ever. If she would have got life sentence, then I would have felt a little better, but it ain't really too much you can do. You just, you know what I mean, get your feelings under tact and you just gotta keep it pushing, you know?
Should she have walked away from this with no punishment? Absolutely not. She did do the right things at the end of the day to get her as light of a sentence as she got. And she earned it. But nobody should act in revenge.
It's just so common now, unfortunately, where, you know, somebody gets offended or somebody gets slighted, and instead of resorting to other means right away, they want to pull a gun and shoot somebody.
And I'm a man now, so, you know, I'm not looking for a father figure anymore, but I miss him. I'm thinking about him all the time, and it hurt because when I'm out, somebody always saying, you look just like your brother. So even when I'm not trying to think about it, you know, I'd be like, dang, my brother gone.